Hello, my name is Sarah Edwards and I'm a Parish Minister at St Paul's Anglican Church in Parkhurst with a licence to preach in the Johannesburg Diocese. It is Sunday after Easter and I wonder how your Easter went. Mine was good, but I'm sure like yours different. To start, my husband Graham found his Easter egg while hiding mine. Far too easy. I'm sure I'm not alone in being thankful for the services from the clergy, the uplifting music and poetry posted on St Paul's online, and the wonderful input from the worldwide church proclaiming the risen Christ. I think one of the highlights for many of us was Easter night, listening to Andrea Bocelli singing sacred songs and hymns to an empty cathedral in Milan, accompanied by one organist. In the video, they showed the empty streets of Milan, Paris, and London, and one got a sense of unity of humankind. This Easter, it was just over 2020 years ago that Jesus' sacrifice on the cross was made for the whole world. But Easter is a week ago, and we are still in lockdown with some way to go. It's interesting that 8 days after the first Easter, we find Jesus' disciples behind locked doors. In fact, we read in the Gospel of John that they'd locked themselves on the night of Easter in fear of the Judeans who might go after them, as they were followers of Jesus. We often think of the disciples gathered there were all men, but as there were woman followers, there is no reason that there would be women as well. Suddenly, despite the locked doors, Jesus is amongst them. Shalom, he says, peace be with you, and he breathes on them, and their fear turns to peace. Now, Thomas wasn't there. So when the disciples excitedly tell him later they had seen the risen Lord, he didn't believe them. I wonder if Thomas wasn't there because he was so miserable, he thought it was better to be alone. The impact of Jesus' trial, flogging, and crucifixion left him reeling. All Thomas could think about was the man he thought could change the world was dead. So you can imagine his response to the other excited disciples. No, you're joking. Never. Well, unless I can see it myself and touch his wounds, I won't believe. Fortunately, perhaps realizing the other disciples were onto something and he wasn't, 8 days later, Thomas made certain he was there with the other disciples in the room behind locked doors. All of a sudden, the same thing happens. Jesus appears and he goes to Thomas. He tells Thomas to touch his wounds and to look at them. Now, we don't know if Thomas actually did put his hands into Jesus' wounds, but he is the first to proclaim Jesus as Lord and God. And Jesus replies to Thomas, because you have seen me, you have come to faith. Happy are those who did not see me and believe. And that clearly refers to you and me. For me personally, and you may agree, that Thomas being so honest was a blessing. We have at some stage all had doubts. Now we think of doubt and faith as opposites, but it's not quite right. Faith and apathy are more opposite than faith and doubt. Doubt is often the key part of the journey of faith, and if we find ourselves there, it is not an indication that we are doing something wrong. Doubt can be what shakes us up. It can be what pushes us out of our once comfortable place and into a new and better spiritual world. It can be a sign of not of absence of God, but of God working in us to try something new. Doubt can be the thing that propels us forward into a more expansive faith. And it was like that for Thomas. His doubt turned to faith and a new understanding of God. He might be known as Doubting Thomas, but he's also known to millions in India as Saint Thomas, as shortly afterwards he set sail for India and was one of the first to bring the Christian faith there. I read there are 28 million Christians in India last counted. So, what can we learn from Thomas and the disciples during this lockdown? They came together in solidarity and for comfort behind locked doors. Now, we can't do this on a physical level, but most important, don't isolate your soul. One of the blessings is that we can still communicate, so stay connected to your families and friends. You never know what a phone call or a message is to someone. Nearly all of us have smartphones or computers, so stay connected to your spiritual family. And here it's the St. Paul's family. Prayers to reflect on are still being posted daily, as is uplifting music. Stay kind. There are so many acts of kindness happening in the world. Locally, people are feeding the very poor, and according to CNN, hotels in the US are putting up the healthcare workers fighting the pandemic for free so they don't infect their families. Easter is a week ago, but Jesus is very alive and is in control. He has conquered suffering and death and is with us, and he understands how we feel. Jesus loves you. I close with a prayer by Richard Raw, a Catholic priest, from his daily meditation. O great love, thank you for living and loving in us and through us. May all that we do flow from our deep connection with you and all beings. Help us become a community that vulnerably shares each other's burdens and the weight of glory. Listen to our heart's longings for the healing of our world. Knowing you are hearing us better than we are speaking, we offer these prayers in all the holy names of God. Amen. Keep safe.